Let's take a look at slicing and dicing. Dicing means to cut into cubes. Let's start with an onion. There are two ends to an onion. You have the root end and the stem end. We're going to cut it from end to end to make a flat surface for our slicing and dicing. The first cut is going to be the high cut. Once again, fingers in a claw position, starting at the top and driving down to the knife hits the board and then dropping the back of the knife. To help keep your onion together when you're slicing and dicing, we're going to keep the root end intact but remove the top portion where the stem is. Again, fingers in the claw position. Now let's remove the outer two layers of skin. Now we're going to do some cross cuts on our onion. It's important not to cut all the way through to the root because remember, that's holding our onion together. Again, claw grip. We're going to bring the knife down about 3/4 of the way through the onion and drive straight down to the board. Come all the way across the top of the onion. Now we're going to bring our knife through the middle for one cut. For some even dice. Now making pivot cuts, I'm going to keep the tip of my knife on the board at all times and only cutting on the forward rock of the knife or thrust. Don't forget your claw for the top of the onion. Now what about the rest of the onion? That's not all waste. We're going to have to dice this up as well. So what I do here is I keep my finger again in the claw up and down position. I bring the knife in a little bit of an angle, not quite 45-degree angle, and I bring it in to make larger pieces, turning. And then I do what they call a rolling dice. Now what about fine dicing? Let's go ahead and pull out our Asian cleaver. Don't forget that pinch grip. Let's try it on a bell pepper. Once again, we have our claw at the top. We're going to do a top cut and drive down. Tip hits the board and finish your cut. We'll do the same to the back side. Now that both ends are removed, we have a nice flat surface to work with. We're going to start by bringing our knife down the side to make a slit all the way down. The easiest way to remove the seed clump is to bring your knife in through the side slit and working your way around the pepper, just cut it loose. When you get to the last rib, make sure you're cutting away from you. And the seed clump comes out all in one piece. Now to make this easier to work with, we're going to go ahead and cut it in half. Now it's important to remove these center ribs because they tend to be a little bit on the bitter side. To do that, we're going to make sure we cut away from us to bring that rib out. When slicing the bell pepper, it's important to make sure that the shiny side of the bell pepper is facing in the down position. And once again, with our pinch hold on the blade and our fingers in the claw position, let's make some more pivot cuts for a nice julienne. And now for the dice, we just turn our cuts this way, line them up, and with the same cut and the same hold on the knife blade, we're going to make a nice fine dice. It's important to make sure your fingers are walking back at the same speed that your knife is traveling across the item you're slicing. The Asian cleaver is also a great tool in helping you picking up the food you just got through dicing. Always use a paper towel when doing this. Never use bare fingers. Now let's do some parsley. It's very important to make sure you rinse your parsley very well to make sure you get all those loose sand particles out of there. I like to leave the twist tie on mine or rubber band to keep everything together. It makes slicing and dicing so much more easier. The best way to chop our parsley is to roll it up into a nice tight ball first. Then we'll bring in our Asian cleaver with our pinch grip on the blade and our fingers in the claw position and do some chopping. Now let's do a fine chop with a rock and chop. Keep the tip of the blade on the board and just rock the knife back and forth. Keep your parsley into a nice straight line or hill so you're cutting the maximum at each sweep. The best way to remove the cloves from the head is to remove the stem piece first. Then we'll push on the stem piece to break up our cloves. Now to remove the skin from our garlic clove, we're going to first remove this little tip here that was holding the clove onto the head. Once again, grip, pinch grip. Now we'll place our knife on top and give it a little pop. Now the skin should pop right off of there. And we're going to dice the garlic in the exact same manner we did with the onion. We're going to leave the tip intact and just bring down some slices for a nice dice. Turn your garlic sideways. Again, fingers in the up and down position. Pinch on the blade hold for a nice small dice. When you get to the end piece, just drop them down and do some rocking. Okay, let's take a look at the cantaloupe. We're going to start by making a flat surface on both ends by removing the top and the bottom. To slice your cantaloupe down, we're going to start at the top and work our way all the way down to the bottom in a sawing motion. I'm actually following the curve of the cantaloupe. Don't be too concerned with missing parts of the bottom because we're going to come back and clean that up after we finish slicing. The thinner the slices that you make, the more rounded that your cantaloupe will remain. Now we can just go clean up the bottom part where we might have missed a few pieces. Now we'll cut directly in half. The best way to remove the seeds is to use a large spoon. Cut in one way and then cut in the other way. Now let's lay the cantaloupe over on the side that the core came out. And once again, with the pinch grip and your claw, we're going to do a high cut, driving down to make half-inch slices. Now bring your melon all together and do one cut straight down the middle. This makes for some great displaying of the fruit. Let's do an avocado. We're going to use our 8-inch chef knife for this. Don't forget that pinch grip and that claw hold. We're going to start at the end of the avocado and come straight in until we hit the seed. Now we're going to bring our knife around as we're turning the avocado to go completely around. Now we'll just twist to expose the seed. Now the best way to remove the seed is to hold at one end and bring the knife down to secure and then just twist out. Now we'll just use a spoon to pull the meat out. Go halfway on one side, halfway on the other. For cutting bread, the best knife is a serrated knife. Don't forget that pinch grip and claw. We're going to come in at a 45-degree angle for a nice oval shape. The secret to a great stock is to make sure your bones are broken down into smaller pieces so you get a better browning on them. This makes for a much richer, nicer stock. We're going to use the meat cleaver to do this. Be advised, this is only a one-handed operation. There is no second hand involved in this action. If cutting corn is tough for you, use the meat cleaver.